The year is 1999. Inside a cold, concrete cell at the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility sits inmate number P50522. He is earning 8 cents an hour scrubbing pizza pans in the prison kitchen. Just a few years prior, this very same man was walking the red carpet at the Academy Awards, hailed as the greatest actor of his generation. How does Hollywood's golden boy end up scrubbing dishes in a state penitentiary? To understand the fall and the legendary resurrection that followed, we have to go back to the very beginning. Because Robert Downey Jr.'s story didn't start in a multi-million-dollar mansion. It started in the chaotic, bohemian underground of 1960s New York. Born on April 4, 1965, in Manhattan, Robert grew up in a house where the rules of normal parenting simply did not apply. His father, Robert Downey Sr., was an avant-garde filmmaker, a rebel of the cinema world. His mother, Elsie, was an actress who starred in her husband's bizarre, unconventional movies. Young Robert's childhood was a whirlwind of artists, late-night parties, cameras, and absolute creative freedom. He made his acting debut at the incredibly young age of 5, playing a sick puppy in his father's absurd comedy Pound. The talent was undeniable. The camera loved him, but there was a dark side to this bohemian paradise. In the Downey household, boundaries were virtually non-existent. In a detail that still shocks the world today, Robert Downey Sr. handed his son a marijuana joint when the boy was just 6 years old. For a father who struggled with his own severe addictions, sharing substances became a twisted way of bonding with his son. Years later, Robert would say, "When my dad and I would do drugs together, it was like him expressing his love for me in the only way he knew how." That single moment planted a seed that would eventually grow into a suffocating vine, threatening to destroy his entire life. But before the fall, there was the meteoric rise. At 16, Robert made a bold choice. He dropped out of Santa Monica High School, packed his bags, and moved back to New York to pursue acting full-time. He swept floors in a restaurant, worked at a shoe store, and performed in off-Broadway plays. His raw, magnetic energy eventually caught the eye of Hollywood. By the mid-1980s, he became part of the Brat pack, a group of young, incredibly popular actors taking over the industry. He charmed audiences in Weird Science, and even landed a spot on Saturday Night Live. Though his SNL run was notoriously disastrous, his undeniable charisma kept the movie offers rolling in. But the turning point, the movie that changed everything, was the 1987 film Less Than Zero. Robert played Julian Wells, a wealthy, charming young man, spiraling completely out of control due to drug addiction. The performance was hauntingly brilliant. It was raw, devastating, and entirely too real. Because for Robert, it wasn't just acting anymore. The character of Julian was becoming a mirror. He later confessed that the role was an exact exaggeration of his own life. He had become the character he was playing. Yet, despite his growing personal demons, his professional genius was about to peak. In 1992, at the age of 27, Robert took on the impossible task of playing the greatest cinematic icon in history, Charlie Chaplin. The preparation he put into Chaplin borders on absolute obsession. He didn't just want to act like Chaplin, he wanted to become him. Robert hired a personal coach to perfect Chaplin's iconic walk. He watched endless hours of old footage. He learned to play tennis left-handed. He even learned to play the violin left-handed, just because Chaplin did. The dedication paid off. His performance was an absolute masterpiece, earning him a BAFTA award and an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. The world was at his feet. Critics declared him an unstoppable force of nature. But behind the glamorous smiles on the red carpet, the monster of addiction, born in his childhood, had fully awakened. The golden boy of Hollywood was about to step into a decade of absolute darkness, and the fall would be televised for the entire world to see. The descent did not happen overnight. At first, the addiction was a shadow, a quiet companion hidden behind the charm and the blockbuster paychecks. But by 1996, the shadow had entirely consumed the man. The industry whispered about his unreliability, but the world was about to see exactly how broken Robert Downey Jr. had become. On a warm night in June 1996, the illusion shattered completely. Police pulled over Robert's Porsche as he was speeding down Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. What they found inside made headlines across the globe. He was driving entirely naked, hallucinating, with black tar heroin, crack cocaine, and an unloaded .357 Magnum revolver sitting in the passenger seat. It was a catastrophic fall from grace. But the tragedy was only just beginning. Barely a month later, while on parole, a heavily intoxicated Robert wandered into his neighbor's home in Malibu. Thinking it was his own house, he walked into a bedroom, stripped down to his underwear, and passed out in an 11-year-old child's bed. The family found him there, a fallen Hollywood idol, unconscious and utterly lost. For the next 5 years, Robert's life became a revolving door of arrests, forced rehabilitations, court appearances, and relapses. He would break out of rehab facilities through bathroom windows, only to be arrested wandering the streets in hospital pants. The media, once his greatest champion, now treated his life as a tragic circus. Paparazzi camped outside courthouses, waiting for the inevitable mugshots. During a 1999 hearing, Robert stood before Judge Lawrence Mira and delivered a chilling, heartbreaking explanation of his addiction. He looked the judge in the eye and said, "It's like I have a loaded gun in my mouth, and my fingers on the trigger, and I like the taste of the metal." Despite his desperate plea, the judge had had enough. Robert was sentenced to 3 years in the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility and State Prison in Corcoran. Prison was a brutal awakening. This wasn't a celebrity country club. Corcoran housed some of the most violent criminals in the state. Inmate P50522 was suddenly thrust into a world of gang violence and constant fear. He later recounted waking up in a pool of his own blood after being attacked by other inmates. The man who had worn custom Armani suits to the Oscars was now fighting for his survival over a cafeteria tray. After serving nearly a year, he was granted early release in 2000. Almost immediately, television producer David E. Kelley offered him a lifeline, a role on the massive hit TV show, Ally McBeal. To the public, it looked like the perfect Hollywood comeback. Robert was brilliant on the show. The ratings skyrocketed, and he even won a Golden Globe for his performance. But behind the scenes, he was completely hollow. He later admitted that during the filming of Ally McBeal, he was at his lowest point, deeply entrenched in addiction, and caring less about acting than he ever had in his life. The facade couldn't last. In late 2000, his hotel room was raided, and he was arrested again with cocaine and Valium. Then, in April 2001, police found him wandering barefoot in a Los Angeles alleyway, under the influence. That was the final straw. He was fired from Ally McBeal. He was fired from other upcoming film projects. He was sent back to rehab, under court order. At 36 years old, Robert Downey Jr. was bankrupt, facing massive debt, divorced from his first wife, and entirely blacklisted by Hollywood. Studio executives deemed him fundamentally uninsurable. No bonding company would cover a movie if he was in the cast. The verdict in Hollywood was unanimous and brutal. Robert Downey Jr. was a lost cause. He was a tragic cautionary tale of wasted genius, destined to be forgotten. He had hit absolute rock bottom. There was nowhere left to fall. But in the total darkness of 2003, a fast food burger and a chance encounter were about to change the trajectory of cinema history. It's the summer of 2003. Robert is driving down the Pacific Coast Highway. His career is in ashes, his reputation is completely destroyed, and the trunk of his car is loaded with a massive stash of illegal drugs. Hunger strikes, so he pulls into a Burger King and orders a plain, ordinary cheeseburger. He takes a bite. In a moment that has since become Hollywood legend, Robert later described that burger as tasting so utterly repulsive, so incredibly disgusting, that it triggered a profound psychological breakthrough. As he sat there chewing, a sudden, terrifying moment of clarity washed over him. He realized that if he didn't stop right then, at that exact second, he was going to die. He drove his car straight to the Santa Monica Pier, opened the trunk, and threw every single narcotic he owned into the crushing waves of the Pacific Ocean. That wasn't just a dramatic gesture, it was a promise. He checked himself into a rigorous program, began practicing Wing Chun Kung Fu to discipline his mind, and vowed never to touch another substance again. But deciding to be clean and convincing Hollywood that you are clean are two very different things. Even sober, Robert was a ghost in the industry. Studios refused to hire him because insurance companies refused to bond him. If an actor is a flight risk, the studio loses millions, and no one was willing to take a multi-million-dollar gamble on a man with his track record. Enter Mel Gibson. Mel and Robert had starred together in Air America years earlier and had formed a close bond. Seeing his friend desperate for a second chance, Mel Gibson did the unthinkable. He personally paid Robert's liability insurance out of his own pocket so that Robert could star in the 2003 film, The Singing Detective. It was an unprecedented act of loyalty. Mel Gibson essentially put his own money on the line to prove to the world that Robert Downey Jr. was back. Around this same time, the universe handed Robert his second miracle. While filming the psychological thriller Gothika, a role where producer Joel Silver withheld 40% of Robert's salary until the movie wrapped to ensure he stayed clean, Robert met a brilliant no-nonsense film producer named Susan Levin. He was instantly captivated by her. She was entirely unimpressed by his Hollywood charm. When they finally started dating, Susan gave him a devastatingly simple ultimatum. If you ever do drugs again, I am leaving. There will be no second chances. For the first time in his life, Robert had a grounded, powerful partner who held him completely accountable. Susan didn't just become his wife, she became his anchor. With his personal life stabilizing, Robert began slowly rebuilding his career, brick by brick. He delivered a magnetic, razor-sharp performance in the cult classic Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and proved his dedication in David Fincher's meticulous masterpiece, Zodiac. He was showing up on time, hitting his marks, and reminding the industry of the raw talent they had almost lost forever. But he was still just an indie darling. He wasn't a blockbuster star. He wasn't a leading man. Then came 2006. Marvel Studios, a company on the verge of bankruptcy, had decided to gamble its entire existence on making its own movies. Their first project was a B-list superhero named Iron Man. Director Jon Favreau was tasked with finding the perfect Tony Stark, a wealthy, arrogant, brilliant playboy who has to hit rock bottom to find his true purpose. To Favreau, there was only one man on Earth who had actually lived that exact story. He went to the Marvel executives and pitched Robert Downey Jr. The executives were horrified. The response was a definitive, absolute no. They told Favreau, under no circumstances are we prepared to hire him for any price. They were terrified of handing a $140 million franchise to a man with a rap sheet longer than his resume, but Favreau refused to back down. He fought tooth and nail, arguing that Robert's life story was the ultimate special effect. Finally, the executives relented, but only slightly. They agreed to let Robert screen test. They wanted to make him work for it, hoping he would fail. Robert knew this was the moment. He spent 3 weeks preparing for the screen test like his life depended on it, because it did. When the cameras rolled, he didn't just read the lines, he inhabited the soul of Tony Stark. He was arrogant, vulnerable, hilarious, and brilliant all at once. The footage from that audition is electric. Within minutes of watching it, the Marvel executives knew they had lost the argument. Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Iron Man. The ultimate gamble had been made. Now the entire world was waiting to see if the Phoenix would truly fly, or if it would crash and burn one final time. May 2nd, 2008. The lights dim in theaters across the globe. Audiences are about to witness not just a movie, but the resurrection of a man. From the moment Robert Downey Jr. appeared on screen as a billionaire playboy with a glowing heart and a trademark smirk, the line between character and actor completely dissolved. At the very end of the film, the script called for Tony Stark to maintain his secret identity. But Robert, in a moment of pure, unscripted brilliance, looked into the camera and confidently declared, "I am Iron Man." Director Jon Favreau kept the improvised take. It wasn't just a line delivery. It was Robert claiming his new reality. He wasn't hiding his scars anymore. He was weaponizing them. Iron Man didn't just break the box office. It shattered it, grossing nearly $600 million. The gamble had paid off beyond Marvel's wildest dreams. Overnight, the man considered fundamentally uninsurable became the most bankable movie star on the planet. But Robert didn't just take the money and run. He became the undisputed godfather of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When studio executives allegedly tried to lowball his co-stars in future Avengers movies, Robert used his massive newfound leverage to protect them. He reportedly refused to sign on for future films unless actors like Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson received fair, lucrative contracts. He treated the cast like family, hosting massive Sunday lunches on set, leading by example, and proving that the erratic, unreliable actor of the 90s was dead and buried. For over a decade, Robert carried the biggest cinematic franchise in history on his shoulders. This unprecedented journey culminated in the 2019 cultural phenomenon, Avengers Endgame. In his final scene, facing down the universe's greatest threat, he doesn't use a superpower. He uses his humanity. With a snap of his fingers, he repeats the line that started it all. "I am Iron Man." It was a devastatingly perfect, poetic farewell to the character that had literally saved his life. But leaving the armor behind brought a new kind of terror. Had he forgotten how to act outside the suit? Was he doomed to just be Tony Stark forever? Christopher Nolan, one of the greatest directors of our time, didn't think so. Nolan approached Robert for his 2023 historical epic, Oppenheimer, casting him as Louis Strauss, a bitter, calculating, and deeply complex politician. Nolan deliberately stripped away the undeniable charm, the fast-talking wit, and the heroic swagger. He made Robert age his hairline, lose weight, and rely purely on the terrifying subtlety of his raw acting craft. The performance was an absolute revelation. It reminded the world that beneath the CGI armor and the blockbuster paychecks, Robert Downey Jr. was, and always had been, one of the most brilliant dramatic actors in cinematic history. On March 10, 2024, the journey finally came full circle. 31 years after his first nomination for playing Charlie Chaplin, Robert Downey Jr. walked onto the stage at the Academy Awards. The room, filled with the very same industry executives who had once entirely blacklisted him, erupted in a deafening, emotional standing ovation. He held the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, looked out at the crowd, and delivered a speech with the perfect blend of trademark arrogance and deep humility. "I'd like to thank my terrible childhood and the Academy in that order." He then looked at his wife Susan and said, "You found me a snarling rescue pet, and you loved me back to life." From inmate number P50522, earning 8 cents an hour scrubbing pans in a state prison, to the savior of the cinematic universe, to an Academy Award-winning legend, Robert Downey Jr.'s life is the ultimate proof that no matter how deep the darkness, and no matter how far you fall, the story isn't over until you decide it is. The broken maverick became the Golden Knight, and the ashes of his past became the fuel for his legendary flight. The world thought the book on Robert Downey Jr.'s Marvel legacy was closed forever. He had given his life as Iron Man, won his Academy Award as Louis Strauss in Oppenheimer, and cemented his place as an untouchable cinematic legend. There was nothing left to prove, but the greatest storytellers always save their most breathtaking twist for the very end. In July 2024, at San Diego Comic-Con, the lights went completely black in the massive Hall H. A group of figures walked onto the stage, dressed entirely in the olive green robes and metallic masks of Marvel's most feared, most iconic antagonist. One figure stepped forward to the center of the stage. He unlatched his mask, pulled it away from his face, and the crowd erupted into absolute, deafening hysteria. It was Robert Downey Jr., but he wasn't there to announce a miraculous resurrection of Tony Stark. With open arms, dressed in green, and flashing a dangerously confident smirk, he revealed that he was returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe to play the ultimate threat, Victor Von Doom. The announcement broke the internet and sent shockwaves across the entire global film industry. How does the man who launched the Marvel Universe, the man who sacrificed his character to save it, return as the very villain destined to destroy it? This wasn't just a casting choice, it was a billion-dollar cinematic masterstroke. For his highly anticipated return in the massive 2026 crossover event, Avengers Doomsday, Robert isn't just playing a traditional bad guy. He is stepping into the shoes of a genius who sees chaos as weakness, a ruler who believes that absolute authoritarian control is the only way to save a dying multiverse. To bring him back, Marvel reportedly offered a staggering, record-breaking salary, proving once again that the man who was once entirely uninsurable is now the most valuable asset in the history of Hollywood. From the dark, cold cell of a California state prison earning 8 cents an hour, to the glittering stage of the Academy Awards, and now, standing as the undisputed ruler of the cinematic universe. Robert Downey Jr.'s life is the ultimate proof that truth is infinitely stranger and far more spectacular than fiction. He was the broken maverick, he became the resurrected hero, and now, he reigns as the king,